Huda released another palette, so you guys know what time it is. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel if you guys are new here. Hi, my name is Sydney. I film cruelty-free beauty videos 3 times a week. Today's video is one that I'm very excited about because we are going to be duping the new Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. I'll insert a picture of it right here. This palette was announced a couple days ago. I'm not quite sure when this video is going to go up, so it's been a couple of days since this palette has been announced. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, I kind of like that palette, but I want to see if I can dupe it first because, as you guys know, if you've been following around my beauty budget series, if not, I'll link it down below. I've limited myself to a $50 beauty budget every single month, and obviously I can't go buying every single palette that releases or every single product that releases, so I really love to do these kind of shop my stash for dupes videos pretty often on my channel. I do them kind of a lot just for myself, but I love to film them because I know they're really helpful for you guys as well, and they serve as great inspiration for you to shop your stash as well if you're on a low buy or a no buy. So I'll be sure to link my other shop my stash for dupes videos down below. Something that I feel like I always forget to mention in these videos is that this whole series is inspired by Kelly Gooch. Her channel is always linked in the description box of these videos. She also does some of these videos occasionally, and I just love the idea, so I love to do them on my channel as well. I do want to throw in a quick little disclaimer that I tend to include in these videos. If you guys want to buy this palette, buy the palette. If you don't want to buy this palette, don't buy it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just simply providing a resource for those of you who are on a low buy or a no buy, or maybe just don't have the cash for this right now, to kind of create some of the looks and create something out of things that you already own that truly can kind of satisfy this urge. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Alright guys, so I am going to do these swatches kind of in rows so you guys can kind of see the whole row put together. Let's hop into the very first shade in the first row. So I'm going to scooch over a little bit so I can insert the pictures right here. So the first shade in the palette is called Cosmic, and this is a gorgeous kind of shimmery, light pinky, a little bit of purple in there shadow. And to dupe that, I grabbed my Winky Luxe shadow in the shade Purr. This is from their Kitten palette, I believe. I depotted it. This one is definitely a little bit lighter and a little bit less pink, but I think on my skin tone it could function really well as an inner corner highlight or even just an all over lid shade, so I think this is a pretty good dupe. Next shade we have in the palette is called Utopia, and this is this beautiful super vibrant coral shade. And to dupe that, I grabbed Woke from the ColourPop Chasing Rainbows palette, obviously also depotted. Oh my goodness, you guys, I started doing this without even showing you the dupe palette. Here's the dupe palette. Oh my goodness. So I will insert a clip right here of a close-up so I can put this palette next to the actual Huda palette so you guys can kind of see them side by side and compare them that way. There are definitely some differences, but I think I did a good enough job duping it to kind of satisfy my urge to buy this palette. So anyways, back to the duping. We're on that second shade called Utopia. Like I said, I dipped in with ColourPop Woke from the Chasing Rainbows palette. I feel like this one has a bit more red to it and maybe isn't quite as neon, but it is a similar tone, and I feel like once you blend them out on the eyes, are you really going to be able to tell the difference? Probably not. Next up, we have the shade Ultraviolet, which is this beautiful, vibrant, cool tone purple shade. And to dupe that, I grabbed Sydney Grace Magenta Dreams. I feel like this is a very similar shade, but I feel like this one might have a blue shift in it that the other one does not. Either way, they're both absolutely gorgeous shadows, and I cannot wait to do some inspired by looks on the eyes with that one. This next one I feel like is kind of a total miss, but I really didn't have anything in my collection like it, and that is the shade Nebula. And I feel like this is like a beautiful, deep gunmetal purple bluish shade. I really don't have anything like it in my collection, so I just kind of grabbed a murky dark purplish shade, and I grabbed Sydney Grace Oil Painting. This is a really beautiful shadow. When I swatched it, I forgot how like softly it came off because I feel like in the pan it looks pretty deep, but it comes off more softly. This one's definitely lighter and more purple than Nebula. Next up, we have the shade Mercury, which is this beautiful deep kind of teal shade. And to do that, I went in with ColourPop On One. This is from the Chasing Rainbows palette once again. I get so many awesome dupes from that palette. If you guys have that palette in your collection and it's just kind of collecting dust, depot it. I'm telling you, I get so much more use out of it that way. But this one I feel like is just a tad bit deeper than Mercury. I feel like this one has more black in its base than maybe Mercury does. This next one, I was so sad that I couldn't dupe because this shade is so stunning. I think maybe I'd like to buy a single in this shade, and that is the shade Haze. And to dupe that, I grabbed Sydney Grace Mint Green, which is this shade right here. I feel like they're of a similar tone, but this one is obviously shimmery while the one in the palette is matte. And I think a matte version of this shade would be absolutely stunning. So maybe that's a single that I need to add to my collection. I don't feel the need to buy that palette just for this single. So that is the first row right there. And don't worry, you guys, at the end I'll insert pictures of the kind of arm swatches side by side so you guys can really compare and contrast them that way. But now we're going to move on to the second row. The first shade in the second row is called Off Balance, and it's kind of this beautiful, this isn't Off Balance, obviously this is my single, but Off Balance is kind of this beautiful mauvey mid-tone matte shade, and to dupe that I went in with ColourPop Pretty Cruel. I feel like this one might be slightly deeper and maybe even a little bit more brown. That one in the Huda palette looks like it's quite mauvey, quite purpley, but I think blended out in the eyes, they would create a very, very similar look and serve a very similar function. Next up, we have the shade Galaxy, which is the most beautiful rose gold copper shade. And to dupe that one, I grabbed Sydney Grace Heart and Soul. I feel like these ones are really, really spot on dupes. I feel like they're both shiny, they're both coppery, these are my shades, you guys. These are my sweatpants makeup shades. Ones where I put on my eyes and I'm just like, oh, Warm Neutrals, I'm home. I love them so much. So this is an awesome dupe for Galaxy. Next one, this is another one that I had such a hard time duping, and I'm like, you know what, I think maybe I want to invest in a single in that shade, and that is the shade Libra. So this is a beautiful kind of soft lilac-y pinky shade. It's so gorgeous. And it is a matte shade. I don't really have anything like that, so I went in with Eclectic Beauty Costa's Hummingbird. Obviously this is much different. It's more cool toned, it's deeper, it doesn't have that nice light pinkness to it, and it does have a little bit of shimmer in it as well. So this one's like way off, but it was the closest thing I had in my collection, and I wanted to at least attempt to dupe it with my singles. Next up, we have the shade Crash, which is just a nice cool tone brown kind of taupey shade. And to dupe that, I grabbed ColourPop Chic Happens. I feel like Chic Happens is slightly deeper and maybe even slightly more gray. I feel like in the pan it looks very similar to Chic Happens, but in the swatches it looks a little bit warmer. So I'm not sure, I'd have to see some other swatches and kind of see it in person. And by the way, the swatches that I'm inserting on the screen are the swatches that I kind of built my dupe palette off of. So what you're seeing is what I used to build this palette. So if they're a little bit off and things are a little bit different in real life or in other swatches that you see, that's why. So the next shade is called Moventum, which I'm sure I'm butchering that name. But it's kind of a soft matte peachy shade. It looks like it'd be a really great transition shade. And to dupe that, I went in with ColourPop Big Spoon. This is from their All I See Is Magic palette. I feel like this one may be just even a little bit peachier than that one. That one might have a little bit more cream to it, but overall I think they could be used in the same capacity. This one might even be a little bit better as a transition shade because it's a little bit deeper and has a little bit more pigment to it. Next shade in the palette is called Supermoon, and it looks like this beautiful super vibrant silver shade. But it looks like this beautiful super vibrant silver shade. I don't own a silver single, so I kind of replaced it with this icy white shade. Unfortunately, this is a mystery single, so I have no idea where this is from. I have no idea what brand it was from. I inherited some singles from a friend, and some of them didn't have names on the back, so I'm just kind of like, I try not to include these in my Shop My Stash for Dupes videos, but it couldn't be avoided. I really don't have anything like it in my collection. But if you have a silver or just a really super bright, like white champagne metallic shade that you love, that would be a great replacement. Alright, you guys, we have made it to the third row. So the first shade in the third row is this beautiful matte black called Vortex, and to dupe that I went in with ColourPop Prism. This is also from the Chasing Rainbows palette, and I feel like a matte black is a matte black is a matte black. Formulas of course differ, but shade wise it's a matte black, it's spot on. Next up we have the shade Hot Mess, which looks like this beautiful kind of deep wine burgundy shade. I love this shade, you guys. These shades just call to me in a way that no other shades do. They're just my jam. And to dupe that, I went in with ColourPop Going Steady. So I feel like this one is slightly less vibrant than that one. I feel like that one maybe is just a touch more purple, a little bit more berry. But overall, blended out on the eyes, you would get a very similar look, and they are both a matte finish. Next up, we have the most gorgeous shimmery kind of cranberry shade, and that one is called Supernova. And unfortunately, I did have to dip into another mystery single for this. I'm sorry. I tried to find my other singles that would work better, but this was the closest that I had. So here's what it looks like right here. It's a gorgeous cranberry shade. I feel like this one might be slightly deeper and slightly more brick toned. It's not quite that vibrant berry shade that the other one is, but again, on the eyes, they're gonna look the same. Next up, we have the shade called Karma, and this is a beautiful kind of neutral tone brown. To dupe that, I went in with ColourPop Top Notch. This is from their All I See Is Magic palette, and I felt like this was a very spot on dupe. Okay, these last two, well, this next one I didn't do so hot on, but the last one I really nailed, if I do say so myself. So this next one is called Gold Glitch, and to dupe that I went in with Winky Lux Cat Eye. This is a beautiful, super intense golden shade. I do feel like Golden Glitch is a little bit more bronzy than this shade is, but overall, I feel like I definitely have a shade floating around somewhere in my collection that's closer to Golden Glitch, just maybe not in my singles collection. This next one is called Frazzled, and it's the most beautiful bronzy golden shade. I think that's how I described the last one too. I apologize that my color descriptions are not top notch. But to dupe this one, I went in with ColourPop Save It for Later. This is also from the All I See Is Magic palette. Another great one to depot if you're looking for some singles. But this one is totally spot on. I swatched it and I'm like, this is like the perfect dupe. I was so happy. So that actually wraps up the dupes for this. So let's hop into kind of just my general thoughts on this palette. Okay, I lied. Before we hop into my general thoughts on this palette, I did want to mention two palettes that when I was kind of digging through my collection that kind of caught my eye, and I was like, those might be kind of similar. Definitely not spot on dupes or anything as comparable as the palette that I created out of my singles, but you might be able to create some similar looks with some of the tones in this palette. So the first one that I wanted to mention is my Kaleido Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. I've talked about this so much on my channel. It's such a wonderful palette. I think you can still get this on the Kohl's website. I'm not sure if it's available on BH's website anymore, but I know this was very popular 2 years ago. And it's still a really great palette, and I know a lot of you probably have it in your collection. So I just want to take a look, open this palette up. It definitely has some of those really pretty pinky purple tones. I'll be sure to swatch any of the relevant kind of tones that I see in this palette and insert it on the screen right here so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But it also has a lot of those really gorgeous key neutrals, like those browns, that beautiful gunmetal shade, and it does have the blues and the purples and the peaches. So I don't think this is identical or even super close, but if you guys were just loving the looks that are coming out of this palette and you really were on a budget and didn't have the budget to buy this palette or just didn't want to spend the $65 or whatever this is going to be, I would suggest kind of dipping into this palette and kind of seeing what kind of looks you can create, what kind of similar looks you can create. And then the other one that caught my eye was my Juvia's Place Magic Mini palette. I feel like the Festival Weekend palette is definitely much closer, but there are some similar tones. It has those beautiful blues, it has the purples, it has those key neutrals, those beautiful berry neutrals. So I'll also swatch any of the relevant tones out of this one. But if you have these two, you may want to shop your stash a little bit before you buy this palette, or even just kind of test out the color story with these two. I like to do that with palettes that I am trying to dupe. I really like to put those singles palettes into use, see if I'm enjoying the color story, and if I'm still enjoying the color story and lusting after that palette, that can be a really great indicator that that might be a really great purchase for me to make for myself. So now let's get into my thoughts on the palette. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I honestly, when I first saw this palette, that first picture that was released, I'll see if I can find it and insert it right here. It was very like overexposed, and it was on this like super shiny background. I really couldn't see the colors that well, and I was just kind of like, I didn't really know how I feel about it. I wasn't really blown away at first sight. I'm like, let's wait and see. Swatches come out, more pictures. But then this picture was shared of it, the one that I've kind of been referencing to as I've been making my singles palette, and I was like, oh, I like those colors. So I think it was definitely misrepresented at first. I'm not really sure why Huda chose to share it that way. I mean, obviously it shows off those beautiful metallic textures really well, but I really just don't think it did the palette any justice. So I'm kind of scratching my head at that. Overall, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I'm gonna have so much fun playing with that color story, but I don't think it's one that I'm gonna purchase. I just bought the Huda Beauty new nude palette, and I'm still kind of testing out the formulas in there, and I haven't quite decided if Huda's formula is really my taste yet. It's definitely not bad, but there are a lot of eyeshadow formulas on the market, and I may prefer some other ones more. So I'm excited to keep testing that one out, but I don't think I'm gonna buy this palette right away. Maybe ever even. It's really pretty, but I almost wish that she would have released that like first round of arm swatches that as a palette on its own, because I feel like, not that the neutrals cheapen the palette, but I'm just so much more attracted to those first 2.5 rows or like 1.5 rows that are swatched on the arms right there. Maybe she'll come out with like a mini that's more like that. I'd be really interested in seeing that. I think that may be the way to go with her palettes. Well, I kind of know it's the way to go because those only retail for $29 and her big palettes usually retail for around $65. So let me see if I can find any info about when this one launches. Oh, this palette is actually $67, which is $2 more than it normally is. I feel like the $67 kind of pushes it over the edge for me from like being like, oh, that's expensive, to like, whoa, I don't think I want to spend that much on eyeshadow. It says it is launching October 27th on hudabeauty.com and then October 31st at Sephora. So I'm hoping to have this up before the 24th so you guys can kind of see this and kind of have this in the back of your mind before you make any purchasing decisions. But let me know down below, are you guys buying this palette? Are you skipping it? What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the higher price tag? It makes me just a little like, it makes me step back a little bit more and kind of rethink purchasing this palette. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video and want to watch more similar videos to it, I will link all the similar ones that I've done down below. Last week, I just shared a Shop My Stash for Dupes video on all of the Nude Obsessions palettes, so if you guys have been eyeing those, check that one out. But that's all from me today, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye! Oh, I just stuck my nail in eyeshadow. No! Moventium? No, Moventium? That's probably wrong. I'll insert the name on the screen right here. You guys will be able to see it in the picture. But this one is one that I put it down here. I put it in the wrong spot.